Mr. Logan. To my far right is Ms. Ford, Ms. Willie, Ms. Poindexter is excused, Mr. Onishi, Mr. Yoshimoto, Ms. Eoff, Mr. Kanuha, and I'm Zendo Kern, the chair. I'd like to call the meeting to order and start with statements from the public. Checking into our other locations. Hilo, do we have any testifiers in Hilo?
Mr. Chair, we have one testifier.
Very good. Waimea?
Good afternoon, Chair. We do not have any testifiers for your committee.
Oh, thank you very much. And Pahoa?
Good afternoon, Chair. We do not have any testifiers for your committee.
Thank you. And Ka'u?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No testifiers down here.
Thank you very much. Here in Kona, we have 3 testifiers. We'll start with the testifier in Hilo. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. At 2.5 minutes, you will hear a prompt, and I'll ask you to please summarize, and then at 3 minutes, I'll ask you to please stop. So in Hilo, you may introduce your first testifier, and she may begin.
Okay, Mr. Chair, our testifier is Corey Harden, and she's talking on Communication 73.3, Bill 25, Draft 2.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Council. Corey Harden for Sierra Club Mokuloa Group, speaking about Bill 25 regarding agricultural tourism. Unfortunately, we're really disappointed with Bill 25. We felt that the similar Bill 266 that you were looking at back in January was actually getting somewhere in terms of supporting agriculture more than tourism and protecting neighbors from impacts. And we feel this Bill 25 just takes us backwards. I sent written testimony suggesting specific changes, and I'll just go ahead and summarize based on that testimony sent earlier. So we'd like facilities not to exceed 1,000 square feet. There should not be automatic approval if there's no planning decision within 30 days after application. There should be automatic denial if the plan is not approved within that time frame. It's too easy to have bad plans slip through. There should be a site inspection before plan approval, so the county knows what's involved. There need to be more protections for sensitive areas besides just the no ag tourism in four-wheel drive areas. That won't cover everything. Need adequate access for fire, ambulance, and police in case there's an emergency in a remote area. We'd like to see stronger noise measures. And we'd like to see road assessments fees. So if there's a ag tourism operation out that you reach by a substandard road and the road starts getting torn up by the extra people coming in, that there's some fees to cover that. Appropriate sewage disposal. Neighbors should be notified before an ag tourism operation is when it's being planned, not after the fact. There need to be signs directing people to the ag tourism so they're not driving around bothering the neighbors asking where the place is. Ag tourism only 5 days a week on any property. Dust control. Animals should be confined safely, humanely, and adequately. The operation should be compatible with the neighborhood. And the planning director should be able to request tax records if necessary. We'd also like to see the ag tourism operator be the owner, operator, or occupant of the farm to have local control, good insurance, limited property size, and limited number of operations in any one neighborhood, so you don't get overwhelmed. Specific penalties for violations and sufficient permit fees and fines to fund enforcement. So thank you for continuing to consider this, and please, protect neighbors and put the emphasis on farming. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yes. And let the record show that Ms. Poindexter is here for our meeting. Thank you. And we did let everybody know, Ms. Poindexter, that you were excused and that you've taken care of important business. Here in Kona, we're going to call up Janice Paul McGlinny to oppose Bill 25. Please give us your name and you may begin.
Aloha, my name is Janice Paul McGlinny. The ability to market and sell agricultural products of bona fide farmers is warranted, yet restrictions to stop the overreach and insensitivity of those who do not need nor deserve the benefit of calling their operations agricultural need to be forefront in any ag tourism legislation. Instead of helping farmers and their bottom line, Bill 25, as written, will in fact codify abuses of ag land. It will encourage noisier, less environmentally balanced rural areas where the backbone of our ag industry lives and raises their keiki, and will potentially raise the value of ag lands and property taxes to the point where real farming could become untenable. Without protective amendments, Bill 25 should be killed. The County Council was errant when it threw out amended Bill 266. I and countless others have taken far too much time out of our daily lives to be sitting here again talking about a bill that ignores almost 2 years of intense work to improve it. The burning questions, suggestions, and experiences of the public made no difference to those who crafted this next bill, nor were any of Councilwoman Ford's public-generated protective amendments added to it. It's particularly onerous that daily visitor count as well as an apparatus and funding for enforcement were ignored. How can that be, especially when the planning director admitted that Bill 25 cannot be enforced as written? Requested requirements included limitations on lot size, mechanized amusement rides, strict noise restrictions, limiting operations to 5 or 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, limiting the daily visitor count to no more than 15 people, requiring agricultural product income to supersede tourism-related income, nixing automatic approval, requiring adequate infrastructure, and taking separate consideration for special places like YPO Valley. And your most imperative duty today is to create an ironclad plan for compliance of any ag tourism law, not a ludicrous honor system as was proposed, nor enforcement that pits neighbors against neighbors, even to the point of being life-threatening, which I personally experienced. That enforcement must include unscheduled planning department visits, as well as oversight of financial, visitor count, and activity records. When my neighbors were holding intrusive, loud, so-called garden tours, the entire neighborhood complained to the county. No one responded, not police, not the health department, no one. It was then that the neighbors were forced to resort to hiring a lawyer to stop the illegal intrusions. Ironically, this new law would codify some of the transgressions of those who couldn't care less about how their activities affect their neighbors and environment. The stated purpose of this bill is to help real farmers survive while judiciously protecting critical ag lands and the well-being of residents. I hope that you members of this committee understand the immensity of your kuleana and the tremendously damaging effects that your support for an inadequate bill could have. Please don't leave real farmers and the general public holding the bag for those who already do and will continue to abuse the system, especially when you have another chance to do it better. I hope you also consider Charles Flaherty's comment, as he was unable to attend today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Lonnie Weigert, support Bill 25. Give us your name and you may begin.
Aloha, I'm Lonnie Weigert. I am the Executive Director of the Hawaii Agritourism Association, a 501c3 nonprofit for the state of Hawaii, and I am here in favor of Bill 25. First, I need to say that a lot of the restrictions that are asked for don't seem to make any sense to me with regard to agricultural land already having permitted use, with regard to noise, with regard to machinery, with regard to dust, and to just single out ag tourism as something that should be restricted, I don't understand. The thing about ag tourism, which is the reason that this bill, I think, came to the forefront, is that it is an economic multiplier for us. when people come to visit the farms, they are not only coming to the farms and providing economic viability for the farmer, but they're also stopping at the gas station, they're stopping at the bakery en route, they're stopping at the grocery store and other places within a rural community that really does need this kind of economic support. And I really feel for those who have testified that may not have had a positive experience with regard to ag tourism. But believe me, ag tourism done right can be so positively impactful for our communities here, especially the rural communities. And what's important too is that a lot of these farmers need to diversify their incomes if they want to ever get food safety certified, if we ever want to keep food secure on this island. If farmers don't have enough money to continue to thrive, we won't have as many farmers as we do now. And agricultural tourism, be very clear, is not for every farmer. So if a bill like this got passed, we would not see hundreds and hundreds of buses all over our rural community. We're talking about few farmers that are able to make it work with value-added products and educating people that want to know about farming here on this island. So I really recommend that we do look at this bill and pass it. If we can't get if we can't get the small farmers out the gate, it's going to be really difficult for them to survive. Thank you very much. Aloha.
Thank you. Our next testifier is Janice Stanga in support of Bill 25. Please give us your name and you may begin.
Yes, my name is Janice Stanga, and first of all, I'd just like to say this is my first time trying to speak up about what is going on as far as with the farmers. I myself am a farmer. I am not the farmer, as was put earlier, trying to fix my bottom line or increase my bottom line in order to create havoc within the community that I live in. I've worked for 12 years now as a farmer, and I can speak from experience that after 12 years, my husband is yet to get a paycheck. I have just last year started my first paycheck. And so this isn't about the bottom line as much as in the farming industry we have so many regulations currently that are being put on us week after week. Last year alone, we spent $45,000 complying with the new regulations that have been put in place. This year, as I speak, right at this very moment, my husband is in the middle of a 15-hour audit for food safety. The expenses that are incurred for these audits, the expenses that are incurred to ensure that our product gets out there safe, some are warranted, certainly. A lot of them, however, are almost a deterrent for a farmer to want to grow food for the community. I'm sure all of us are aware that without food, we're not here. And food is so important to us all. Right now, with the expenses that have been added with, I know 10 years ago to bring in a 40-foot container of corn cob, which is used for our mushrooms, was $4,500. Today it's $11,500. That's just one thing. The boxes, the freight, everything has increased so much. We need this ag tourism in order to not make millions of dollars for our bottom line, but to keep growing food. And I don't believe a lot of farmers will do this based on the fact that they don't have time. They're busy growing food. But for those of us who have time, who have grown to a point now where we can no longer grow additional food, we're going to have to increase what we need in the way of farm tour. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to give testimony in any other locations? Hearing hearing? Seeing none, public testimony is now closed. We'll move on to referrals. Madam Clerk, will you please start with Communication 368, Bill 104.
Communication 368, Bill 104, amends Ordinance Number 05-110, which amended Ordinance Number 92-7, which reclassified lands from agricultural 3 acres A3A to single-family residential 10,000 square feet RS10 at Waiakea, South Hilo, Hawaii, covered by Tax Map Key 2-4-3, Portion 21. Applicant Krista Lee and Henry J. Correa Jr. Trust, area 6.003 acres, from Mary William P. Kenoy, dated July 22, 2013, transmitting the above bill with a favorable recommendation from the Windward Planning Commission. The applicant is requesting a 7-year extension to comply with Condition C, time to secure final subdivision approval, and Condition K, deadline for fair share payment. The Planning Director recommends approval of the request for the 7-year extension to comply with Condition C, but has provided language to Bill 68 to make fair share payment due and payable prior to receipt of final subdivision approval.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. May I have a motion to approve Bill number 104 and file all related communications?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Yoshimoto and a second by Mr. Onishi. Is there any discussion? Mr. Yoshimoto?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is the applicant available at any of the sites? Hilo?
Yes, we have the applicant here.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, that's the representative for the applicant.
Good afternoon.
Oh, okay. If she could please identify herself.
My name is Lori Mickelson. I'm his representative.
Okay, Ms. Mickelson, I read through the entire packets. I understand, the reasoning for the time extension, and I guess that the plans, they're not even close to being finalized yet. But basically, this is just a 7-year time extension. Is that what it is?
That's correct.
Okay. Is there anything else that you wanted to add at this time or request?
No, it's pretty clear. Thank you.
Okay. With the amendment that was suggested by the Planning Commission, right, that the fair share be due before final subdivision approval.
Yes, Mr. Correa understands that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, we have 9 in favor. That'll move forward to council with a, Bill 104 will move forward to council with a positive recommendation. Madam Clerk, will you please read in Communication 73.3, Bill 25?
Communication 73.3, Bill 25, Draft 2, amends Chapter 25 Zoning Code of the Hawaii County Code 1983, 2005 edition as amended relating to agricultural tourism. From Council Member Zendo Kern, dated January 7, 2013, transmitting the above bill. The bill amends Section 25-1-5B, 25-2-71, 25-2-75, 25-2-76, and 25-4-15 relating to definitions, plan approval requirements, and use regulations, respectively, pertaining to agricultural tourism. The bill adds and clarifies definitions and types of use for major and minor agricultural tourism activities and sets forth specific regulations for each. Postponed January 22nd, 2013. Referred to Planning Director and the Windward and Leeward Planning Commissions, February 19, 2013. And Communication 73.4 from Mayor William P. Kenoy, dated July 2, 2013, submitting the Planning Directors and the Windward and Leeward Planning Commissions favorable recommendations with conditions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. May I have a motion to approve Bill 25 and file all related communications?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Kanuha and a second by Ms. Poindexter. At this time, I will relinquish my chair to the Vice Chair, Ms. Willie.
Okay, let the record show that I am assuming the chair. Thanks. Just refer to Zenda. Okay. Mr. Kern, would you like to begin the conversation?
Yes. I believe that agriculture or tourism is an important potential component to helping out our small farmers. I really do. I don't think that this is going to be something that just goes around like wildfire. I think it's not going to work for every single farmer. I don't think it's going to take away from the farming, in my personal opinion. I know there's a lot of concern, noise, dust, etc. But when you think about you can drive all around there all day long with a big machinery. I mean, you still have a decibel level you have to keep. There's still noise regulation across the board on all land use, but that's what you do. You drive. There's trucks. I mean, look in the sugar days, we had trucks in and out. I mean, big machinery, dust. I don't think agricultural tourism, having people taking little tours around the property, walking, is going to be worse than having big machines driving around and creating that. So I don't see that as a problem. Something that we did do was we did lower. I mean, there has been the option for the regular agricultural tourism that you can get to if you have $10,000 of gross. You can have up to 30,000 visitors on your property. That's existing. This is a way to actually allow a minor agricultural tourism in there that's smaller, giving them the flexibility, not having them having to jump through all these hurdles, which will actually stop them from most likely doing it. And so we made it so limiting it to 5,000 visitors a year and 100 visitors per week. I don't like the per day. That gets too constrictive in my opinion. And when it first came through, it was at 15,000 visitors, and I thought that was a bit much. So I'm trying to find that balance, but I think we need to promote our agricultural industry. We need to promote the ag tourism component to that, because farming is hard on a good day. There's no doubt about it. My parents, we had a tomato farm growing up. We had a lychee orchard, and it was challenging, and it's hard to make it's hard to make it work. So ag tourism is a component, and as one of the testifiers said earlier, there's a multiplier effect to that. You have people coming in, and they're spending the money in the communities. That's what we need. We need economic boost. We need jobs. I mean, we're come on. There's just 25% of our island. 25% of the children on our island are food insecure. That's a problem. How do we do that? It's not just one thing. It's a multitude of different things, and this is one component for people to be able to attract people in, sell their products, and those people will spend money in those communities. And we need that. We're in Hawaii, but to me, it doesn't feel like we are taking away from agriculture as it is. We're actually going to help some of these farmers sustain their agriculture activities. I'm really curious to see what my other fellow council members have to say. I don't want to have this bill turn into how do you protect against agricultural tourism as much as how do you promote agricultural tourism. And as we're seeing it and we are making adjustments along the way, maybe there are some, but I don't want to get too heavy on all the protectionism. I'd like to see what happens, what's going on. And again, I don't think everybody's going to jump out there and do it. So I think it's sound, and I know that there was a recommendation from the planning director to change the time to 6 o'clock, so it ends at 6 instead of 20 minutes after sunset. I understand how that's it's hard to regulate that because, as I said, the sun sets at a different time every single day. So that's something that I will take into consideration and make that adjustment. So it is there is that enforcement. And with that, I'll yield and see what my fellow council members have to say.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. I'm in support of this because I think there's a lot of incentives, for our rural communities. When I look through my District 1, it's a lot of ag. And we've been struggling with some small businesses also in the towns, Honolulu, Honoka'a, Kukui, Haile. If we work together with what this is being presented before us, then we'll have this gateway of being able to have them, go to maybe Honoka Town, go and enjoy some coffee at Grandma's Bobo's Kitchen or whatever that new restaurant is, or So I look at it as creating a healthy partnership for our people along that coastline. We've been struggling because once the improvements go up on our Saddle Road, it scares us because a lot of people will visit the volcano and then want to shoot back to Kona really quick, not realizing the beauty of our rural communities and what we have there to offer. Now, speaking out about the noise, hey, we have Ag 40 lots out there that have hundreds of roosters on them, so we cannot say, hey, we don't want no roosters crowing from 4 a.m. to, we don't have control of those, but we do have control over the amount of noise. But I see this as a positive way to move in a positive direction. At the last meetings we talked about having the farmers markets in communities. This is just now building on that and creating ways to be sustainable for our people along the coastline. I'm speaking for District 1. I'm sure that happens throughout the island, but I think this is a way to build for each other and all our businesses, and so our towns and our communities can thrive, and we need to bring that back. So I am definitely supporting this, so thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Ford?
I cannot even begin to describe how disappointed I am in the Planning Commission. Not one commissioner discussed a single problem, a single abuse of ag tourism during 2 meetings. Not one commissioner. The amendment that I sent over with over 30 amendments, not all of which I agreed with, by the way, not all of them. Not one discussion, not a word in that whole group. Everyone wants to pretend that you're either for ag tourism or against ag tourism, and that is not true. I don't have a problem with ag tourism. I have a problem with the abuses of ag tourism that this council is refusing to deal with, and that commission has refused to deal with. This is the reason that I brought that amendment forward with over 30 amendments to deal with the abuses. I happen to live on an ag lot. I happen to live on a private road. Even if you say, oh, you can only have this if you're on a county road, let me tell you that some of our county roads are really teeny tiny. And if you have 5,000 or 10,000 cars or vehicles a year going down those tiny little substandard county roads, your lifestyle is forever destroyed. Forever destroyed. And that's what this council will do if they don't put some safety measures in this, as the community has requested. We spent 2 years in the last council going over those things, and the last council kicked the can to this one because it said, you know what, you guys are going to have to live with this and we want your input. What did we do? Erased 2 years of public testimony and said, hey, ag tourism is fabulous. And I read in the paper of one person who owns the chocolate factory. I want to tell you, those people are fabulous people, and they do not abuse their neighborhood. I've been to their facility. They are a quiet, small operation. They're not abusive. But that doesn't mean their next-door neighbor is going to be just like them. They're wonderful people. But when you get a bad neighbor who says, I'm going to make a buck, I don't care how it impacts you, you've got problems. And you guys are putting codes in place without any protection for those of us who really do farming. It's not about tourism, it's about agriculture. There's a difference. I'm not saying don't do both or have a little tourism with your major ag, but you guys, you're buying what the tourism industry is saying. You're buying what they're saying, oh, this is going to help sustain us. There isn't a single piece of tourism that is going to grow one more tomato. It takes a farmer out in the field to grow a tomato with the help of Mother Nature. That's what it takes. And if you allow the character of this island to be destroyed by putting 5,000, you think 5,000 is small? Just imagine 5,000 vehicles a day going past your small farm. There's no size limits on this. There's no size limits. I could have my little less than 2-acre farm and could have 5,000 people coming in. Do you think my neighbor's going to appreciate this? Do you think I'm going to grow one more lychee or one more papaya? GMO-free, I might add. You think I'm going to grow one more thing on my farm if I have 5,000 cars come in? Where is my attention going to have to be? Taking care of 5,000 vehicles or taking care of one more tomato? You're deluding yourself. I have been on Miss Palma Glenny's farm multiple times. I have been up that road because they've had other issues in that area, which is now in Drew's area. I've been up that road. I know exactly the problem she's talking about. We've got 2 little pieces of concrete going up that hill. It's a nightmare. 5,000 cars on that road, you've got to be kidding me. 30,000? We're insane. We're insane. When we get to our county roads, we can't maintain our county roads, especially those that are substandard right now. There's not enough money. How are we, the county, going to get any money from this ag tourism? We are not. You are responsible to take care of these abuses that you know exist before it happens, and you better not turn your back on your farmers.
Thank you. First of all, there's one big change from Bill 266 that's actually quite a bit of a restriction on a minor ag tourism operation, which took it down from Bill 266, I believe I'm looking at the last draft, would have allowed up to 15,000 visitors per year. And this bill allows only 5,000 per year. So I'm not sure if Ms. Ford made a mistake in what she just stated about. So, and it also would restrict the type of vehicle that can come to an ag tourism operation to the maximum would be a 15-passenger van. And I know we did take out the daily restriction, which would have been 15 people per day, and left it at 100 people per week. And I also feel that we shouldn't totally disregard the 2 years of work and all of the work that went into Bill 266. And there may be some very serious things that we should look at as far as amending this current Bill 25. I'm not sure if we should take up the suggestion of the Leeward Planning Commission. I read the background report really carefully, and while they did give it a positive recommendation, besides the suggestion that we change the time from 20 minutes past sunset till 6 p.m., they also said this. In their motion to send a favorable recommendation to the council, it was amended to add, with the request that the council solicit additional input from the farming and ranching community, including specific organizations, and the Farm Bureau and the Hawaii Ag Tourism Association to seek additional input on the bill and any additional amendments. Now, I'm not sure if that's possible, that these groups could meet with some of the people who are bringing up the concerns that may be very valid to them and to the future of allowing ag tourism. Would it be worth that effort? Do you think that there could be any resolutions or some kinds of suggestions that you bring back to us in the form of amendments? One of the other things I'd just like to add that I am concerned with, and I know there's nobody here today to address this, but I remember during the discussion of Bill 266, the taro farmers from YPO Valley came forward very concerned, and I believe that bill had gotten amended to restrict ag tourism in YPO Valley, and I'm not sure if that's still the feeling of the taro farmers, but I would like to hear from them as well. And I did send an email out, but not till the last minute yesterday, so I didn't hear back. So yes, I'll yield at this time, but I wouldn't be opposed to postponing this if those groups and some of the residents who are concerned about what ag tourism may do to their neighborhoods, keeping in mind that this is quite a bit more restrictive than the original proposal for ag tourism, minor, because like Zendo had said, we already allow ag tourism, that we codified that. It can have up to 30,000 people per year, but there's very strict requirements. If you're going to do that, you need to get a plan approval, which requires a drainage study, and because that's so very expensive, not too many people have actually applied for a major ag tourism or ag tourism permit. So I think when this bill originally came forward, it was to bring up an alternative to that and to allow some kind of smaller operations to do an ag tourism operation, but I think actually we've moved in a good direction by limiting the number way down to 5,000 per year. I think that takes care of a lot of problems that the 15,000 a year would have brought. But anyways, I've read some other testimony that has me concerned a little bit, but it's basically the YPO farmers I want to hear from, and if this group is willing to discuss the issue among some of the affected people and come back or write us some emails, or I'm not sure, but that's just at this point I'll yield. Just wanted to throw those ideas out there.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I got a chance to talk to the Dean of College of, it's the College of Agriculture, Forestry, and Natural Resource Management, and I just want to voice out his concern because it's one of those unintended consequences. I can't seem to talk today, so bear with me. So when I was talking to him, he was mentioning that the students, they go to these field trips, and because of how it is structured right now, two of their sites is the UH Hilo Farm in Paneva and the Pacific Aquaculture and Coastal Resource Center in Keukaha. And one of the things is that these facilities, they host tours around K-12 students, which usually arrive by bus, and some college student activities related to instruction and research require their presence at these facilities before 8 a.m. and after sunset. So one of the things that this bill will do is that much of the ag industry will no longer allow class field trips to their operations if they will be considered ag tourism operations. And one of the things that we should look into is continuing those field trips, because you have those classroom settings, and it would be beneficial for the ag students to visit these sites. And one of the things that I'm just trying to say is, along the way we're doing this, I was wondering if it's possible to maybe exempt them to minor ag tourism instead of the major, because of all the restrictions in the major. So that's one thing I just wanted to let you be aware of and see if that could be a possibility. Thank you.
Councilmember Kern? Okay.
Yeah, I thank you, Madam. I would want to talk about a little bit about YPO because you said, meeting with the YPO farmers. I met with several YPO farmers, and this is actually because of what was happening with YPO and a lot of tourists and the cars going down, and it was just totally out of control. We just were there last week, and it was incredible, the amount of cars there and people just going down. So that's why we brought back the Ranger program, so we could bring some safety for the valley and to let them know about the roads, what is proper protocol, private properties and all. And also when I had a meeting with a group of them in YPO above the lookout, we talked about how wonderful it would be if we could control the type of traffic that goes down. So if we're looking at taking tours down there and you're allowing vans to go down, then we're taking a lot more of the traffic out of YPO. Because if we're going to say, if you want to go visit the taro farms here, take this tour because this will take you down. Instead of, it's kind of out of control. I don't know how we will stop that, but we looked at this being a possible way of, putting more people into one car instead of having a lot of cars go down. So, and looking at how can a lot of them want to do byproducts. A lot of them want to come up. In fact, a lot of them coming up by the valley and trying to, because they cannot be doing that on county property. So this is a way for them, and a lot of them want to give back to the Ranger program because it helps them, with security on their property. So they're talking about how can we do byproducts, go up to the top, sell some things so we can give back to the Ranger program so that the Ranger program can be self-funded and don't have to rely on the county to fund that program. They want to fund it themselves. So, these are opportunities out there. I don't want to stunt, what we have going, not just to encourage building community, but also making sure that it's safe. So I look at this, a lot of people you can say, can look at it in a negative way. I don't want to look at it that way. I want to see the glass half full versus half empty. And the thing is, I can assure you that I'm never going to turn my back on any of our farmers, and I don't think any of our council members would. So with that said, I am still in support of this, so thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think that ag tourism will prevent people from farming. I don't think somebody's going to say, I'm not going to plant something because I have ag tourism. And that's what's being said. It's like ag tourism is going to take away from farming as an argument. I don't believe that would be true. I also believe that to be successful in the ag tourism side of things, you have to market you have to market your tour, you have to market your farm, which would mean your farm, to have people coming up, has to be attractive. You have to have something to go to, which means you're probably going to be working your farm. You're going to have nice trees. The lawn's going to be, the grass is going to be mowed. It's going to be taken care of. It's going to be an orchard, whatever it is. That to me would actually mean that they would be planting more stuff. They would actually be building that out to get a greater attraction, and if it was working for them, then they might go up to a major ag tourism, for that major ag tourism. So I feel that the farmers need the options to be able to bring people in, to be able to make that money. We do talk about our county roads need improving. I agree 100%. How do we improve our county roads? How do we get the money? We get our money off a tax base. How do we have our tax base? People building homes, people building their outbuildings to their farm. And when you have a tourism element to it, you have people that are going to be coming in. The multiplier effect in those communities are going to be happening. The money is going to be going to those communities. People are actually going to be making money. They can then maybe build a home on their farm, build a shop on their farm. The people that are working in the stores, that have the stores, then they can build something. It brings up our tax base, and then we're able to actually improve our county roads. It's all connected. It's all tied together, is my point. So this is just one component. I think it makes complete sense to have agricultural tourism, and on the minor, and we reduced it down from what Bill 266 was. Bill 266 was 15,000 visitors. We took it down by 10,000 visitors, 5,000. I'm trying to be reasonable to find that balance. And again, the major is already permitted. Yes, you have to jump through some hurdles, but you make $10,000 and get the approvals, you can have 30,000 visitors a year as it stands right now without this bill. So to me, it just makes sense, and I'm okay with if we need to get more input from various farmers or some of the organizations. That's fine. But again, I just don't feel that ag tourism is going to take people away from farming. They're still going to farm. The farmers are going to farm, and they're going to be able to make it work for them and actually have some income. So I yield.
Okay, Councilmember Onishi and then Councilmember Ford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to hear any comments from our new planning director. So if you could come up. You can introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody. What was the request?
Well, I just was wondering, since you're on board, just recently, but maybe this ag tourism was from way back when you were like director for a little while, and also maybe deputy director. So I just wanted to see if you had any comments about this proposal.
For the record, the department's position, as well as the Planning Commission's recommendations, are, what you have before you. My experience in this area, goes back, many years, where there were these kinds of issues that were starting to arise with coffee farmers, and buses going up to coffee farms, etc. It's the same general issue. Just generally speaking, you're never going to be able to dot all the I's and cross all the T's for an issue like this, and I think the more you try, the more I's you're going to find and the more T's you're going to find. So at some point in time, I think you just have to find something that philosophically everybody can agree is a starting point and just go from there.
One of the main concerns, or one of the main concerns that I'm hearing is that about the traffic, about the roadways, substantial roads, and so from the planning department side, how do you folks feel about that?
Again, in my opinion, that's another eye to look at, and how many, there's, just a whole range of roadway conditions. If you set a certain standard for the amount of traffic on a roadway that's paved versus the amount of traffic on a roadway that's unpaved versus the amount of traffic on a roadway that has a 12% grade versus a roadway that has a 5% grade, it's just, going to get too tough. In my experience, the big impact is buses, tour buses. Tour buses have a hard time moving around even on, county standard type roadways, let alone the kind of accesses that you have to, the wide variety of farms, and different agricultural activities that would go for this type of activity. So I don't know what the answer, to that is.
Okay. As one testifier mentioned about, they were some problems happening in their location, and they tried to call different departments or even the police to find out who can enforce. Now, we passed this, so does that mean planning department would be the enforcing party?
Probably.
So then you would...
Well, you know, the way the department is, whether you pass it or not, we still get the calls.
Yeah, but
you know?
no, but then,
Yeah.
but the thing is then, but for me, I would like to see is that if there is calls, that the problem is solved. It's not like being passed down the road or kicking that can down the road and say, oh no, you know, you have to call so-and-so or whatever. And that's when, to me, the public gets frustrated, right? And that's when tempers start rising, and that's when you could get, you know, problems with the neighbors and so forth. So the thing is, to me, if we do pass something like this and now it's being exposed into the public's eye, we need to, they need to be assured that, okay, there is enforcement, that in case there is problems, they need to know who they can call and rely on.
Well, I think my answer to that is that, you know, versus having a call to enforce some kind of activity that is, you know, not defined anywhere, you know, totally discretionary, versus something like this bill, which has parameters, you know, then at least we've got a range to work with in terms of, you know, the follow-up, the enforcement, the resolution, you know, if necessary.
But isn't there...
Department to come back up. Mr. Kanuha, please explain to this council how many inspectors you have in the planning department to do enforcement.
We have 4.
4.
Yeah.
4. How, you busy?
Very.
Thank you. That's all I need. When I write a bill, whatever kind of bill, one of the things I learned over the years from the prosecutor's office is that you want to put an enforcement section in that's got teeth in it. It's not because you want to fine people or you want to throw people in jail. You put teeth in the enforcement section of your bill to get the good people to say, I'm not going to do that, I'm not taking that chance. Because the bad people aren't going to be interested at all in following the law. They're going to break the law whenever possible. Okay, I'll wait till everyone's finished with their conversations. Please stop my time. No, I'm still on the floor. I'm waiting for everybody's attention. We've got 2, 3 conversations going on here.
I just want to let you know, I was asking, can I just ask for clarification on what you said? Because that's what I was asking the chair.
Yes, you may, as soon as I have the attention of the whole council.
Okay.
Yeah, you wanted to ask me a question.
That's what I was leaning over to Margaret. Did you just, when you asked us, if any of us are do commercial agriculture, and nobody answers, and you say that it's because we don't know what we're doing?
I said you don't understand commercial agriculture. If you're not involved in commercial agriculture, if you're not filing a Schedule F, and I'm not interested in whether you're doing that or not, then you really don't understand why the commercial farmers are having a problem with this bill. You're saying, we've been so good, we cut it down from 15,000 visitors to down to 5,000, and that's so reasonable. But those excuse me, I'll wait till Mr. Kern is finished talking to Mr. Ilagan. Did you stop my time again? Thank you. When you talk about 5,000 visitors, we're talking an arena of people. We're talking unbelievable quantities of people and vehicles coming into an area. So, it's not about being adverse to ag tourism. It's about, as I said, as the prosecutors trained me, doing enforcement and having laws on the books to put teeth into the law. I don't see this in here. I totally understand why the people in Waipio Valley are pretty upset. I've been down that road in a four-wheel drive vehicle. I know how treacherous and dangerous it is. And I understand that, a ranger program would probably be a fabulous thing. A tour company that would handle that would be a truly fabulous thing for that area. But that's one small area of the island. We all have the same issues. Maybe our roads are not that substandard because, I mean, you're basically taking your life in your hands to go down that road, and especially if it's wet, which it usually is. But you're not looking at how this is going to be enforced. We've got a planning department with 4 inspectors that are, you know, Mr. Kanuha, the Director Kanuha, let me get that straight so we're not confusing everyone. Director Kanuha, I think, was very understated when he said they're very busy. They're horrifically busy. They don't have time to go out and do spontaneous inspections. It is a complaint-driven inspection process in the planning department. They handle lots of stuff. So they're not going to just be spontaneously coming out to see if somebody's violating the code. It's going to be up to the neighbors. And by the time they have violated the code, you've got everybody in the whole area really upset. Really, really, truly upset. And if you're not willing to deal with this issue and put the kind of constraints and enforcement teeth that we need, well, maybe we just need to hire a whole lot more inspectors. Oh, our budget doesn't allow for that. I don't know where you're going to get all this enforcement from because it doesn't exist in our budget today. And trust me, it's not going to exist in our budget next time we come up for review in the budget, or next term either. You guys are trying to kick this can down the street, and for what reason, I really don't understand. I don't have a problem with this bill if we beef it up with the things that we need to do to protect real farmers. Not just the farmers who want to do some ag tourism. I don't have a problem with that. But we need to protect them. And we need to understand what real farmers today are dealing with as far as struggling with in an industry where you've got Mother Nature against you, the weather's against you, of course, part of Mother Nature. We need to look at those things and say, what can we do to really help the farmer? Ag tourism has absolutely, well, let me be conservative, almost nothing to do with food sustainability. You've heard from the industry, they're saying, oh, you give these guys a little ag tourism and they can keep farming and producing food. It's not what's happening, folks. We know that we don't have enough of the right kinds of foods on this island, and we, the council, aren't really addressing that real issue of food sustainability. That's what we need to be looking at, and how do we do that? Ag tourism is nice. It's a nit in the middle of everything. So we need to do better. We need to fix this bill. Thank you.
Member Kern?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, well, I may not be a commercial farmer right now. I did grow up. Like I said, we had a big tomato farm as well as a lychee orchard, so I do understand that. I do not understand how somebody having a minor or major agricultural tourism operation will hurt another farmer. They still have every right to farm and do their business the way that they want to do their business. It's the other person that gets to choose to do that. So I don't see how those link over. The conversation about food sustainability and food security, that's a tremendous conversation, and we do need to be having that. This is a small component of that, but that's a really big apple, and we need to take little bites, like from the farmers market to this, and how do we bring it all together? Crucial. The enforcement is the same that it is now with land use enforcement. You have people that are out there that have an illegal, junkyard or bed and breakfast or whatever it is, or store, and then there's a complaint because it's obviously bothering the neighbor. The department goes out there, they do their investigation, and then they send a letter to stop. And if you don't stop or become compliant, there's serious fines, penalties every single day. The same thing would happen here. If there's a neighbor and they're saying, hey, this person isn't operating their minor or major ag tourism operation properly, they're going to file a complaint, they're going to come out and investigate it, and they're going to send them a letter saying either become compliant or start paying. That's what happens. So that mechanism is in place. This bill is actually going to help have guidelines to do that, because right now I'm sure that there's people out there doing quote-unquote minor agricultural tourism activities, but they're not in compliance, so they live in fear that they might have that come. And how do they get into compliance? Do they need to make it so big that they can scale up to become the major that we already have right now and get up to 30,000 visitors a year? I don't think that helps. I think having something small, scaled down, is reasonable, and I think it'll be very beneficial. And again, I just don't see how somebody choosing to have an agricultural tourism tour or whatever it is, or horseback riding tour on their farm is going to hurt the other people that are farming. They still get to farm, and we need more and more farmers. So that's my opinion. I think we should either, if Ms. Eoff feels very strongly about having that conversation, well, I'm okay to postpone. If not, I think we should vote and move forward.
Madam Chair. Could I ask Director Kanuka to come back? So for someone to do a legal minor ag tourism operation under this bill, is there any kind of permit that would be required of them? Or they just can start doing it, meeting the restrictions here?
I didn't understand the question. What was the question again?
Is there any kind of permit at all that would be required if a person wanted to have a minor ag tourism operation? Is there anything in this section that requires a permit to do that?
I don't believe so.
I was just wondering if there would be, I know it wouldn't be like a special permit or anything really difficult to obtain, but what if we could require some type of a permit for a person who was wishing to do a minor ag tourism operation? And the reason I was thinking about that is because if they were on record having taken out a $25 permit, something minor to get, then if a neighbor had a complaint or found that they were violating any provision in here, like having more than 100 people per week or doing an activity that didn't fall under ag tourism, then when they call you, you could go out, you make sure they had a permit, go out and check it, and if that violation occurred more than, say 3 times, their permit could be taken away.
To identify the participant, let's put it there.
Something to identify that the operation is taking place, and then if there's complaints, you would have some kind of recourse because of a series of complaints, like 2 times or something, someone had to go out and check because the neighbor is experiencing something that doesn't really fit what ag tourism was meant to be. Then you could revoke that permit and the person couldn't do anything. So then they would really be, subject to reprimand if an activity is going on there that they don't even have a permit for it.
Either a permit or a license or something.
I was just thinking along those lines, and I don't have an amendment or anything, but I just was wanting to see what, if that is something we'd like to talk about or consider.
That would help.
It might.
Madam Chair, can I?
Yes, you might.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, even just a filing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
it's
Just
like
to
a
say,
license
on
or-
TMK such and such, I'm doing a minor agricultural tourism activity, and that would, they still have to comply with those standards, but that would at least have them on record. I think that's actually a good idea.
Okay. Thank you.
If there are any of I'm going to support this. At the same time, I think there are legitimate issues. I really do think some kind of registration would be good. And what I'm looking at is like what Director Kanua said. He mentioned the word monitor and watch this. I think that we need to watch this, and then I think that we need to look at what the problems are, and we can address them. I mean, I just feel more and more the only way, sometimes we can't address all of the potential fears, and we need to take a starting point and look at what they are, and where there are problems, address them. I think Waipio is the big problem, and I think that's a separate. I think the inspectors is a big issue. We had someone testify a while ago about all of the complaints they've made about adjoining ag land, and every once in a while, finally gets an inspector come over there, and it's not happening that minute, and so it's just dropped. But I think that we can't not go ahead. I think so for me, I think we ought to change the time. I really would like to see some kind of registration. We need to be more informed. They need to be more informed, and we need to look at what the problems are. I think this is a starting point. It isn't exactly where I would start, but I feel we need to start moving and watching and not necessarily addressing how do we address each thing going forward. So I'm going to therefore move to...
Just one quick comment. I will put in, I'll make an amendment at council with the registration with the planning department, as well as I'm going to taking the director and the commission's recommendation on an actual stop time for the enforcement side of things. So I will have those amendments ready when that comes.
Okay, so Madam, roll call vote.
Ms. Eoff? Aye. Ms. Ford? Honolulu, no. Mr. Ilagan?
Aye.
Mr. Kanuha?
Aye.
Mr. Onishi? Ms. Poindexter? Aye. Mr. Yoshimoto? Mr. Kern? Ms. Ford? Thank you. Chair Willie?
Aye.
Thank you. Chair Willie, you have 8 ayes and 1 no.
Okay, so it moves forward with a positive recommendation.
Second.
To adjourn? Oh, all those in favor, other than Councilmember Onishi? Okay. Okay, any no's? Okay, we're adjourned. All right,
That was a little interesting.
How? All right.
That's a tough subject to regulate, man, so I mean,
There you
I
go.
agree with what Margaret was saying.